Inclusive Recruitment Toolkit video series. Part 2. Attracting diverse candidates. We asked representatives from lived experience organisations in Cornwall for their opinion on inclusive recruitment. In this 5-part interview series, we explore topics like attracting diverse candidates, how to make job interviews more inclusive, and much more. In job adverts or descriptions, what kind of language do you look for to see if you will be accepted and supported?
I suppose it's behaviour, isn't it, rather than it's looking at behaviours. It needs to be language that's acceptable for everybody, people with a learning disability, people who are neurodiverse, so it has to be acceptable language, that it's clear and concise. I will bang on about it until I'm blue in the face, and that is easy read. Everything should be available in easy read so that it's accessible by everybody.
I think from my point of view, I'd like to go on to the sexuality and gender identity. I think that I've probably got the right place with that because I never ask, because it's not important. I ask questions about whether that person can do the job and that whether they're going to fit in with the people that we've got there. Their sexuality or their gender identity is of no relevance at that point to me, as long as they're being welcomed into our employment.
So when you're looking for a role and when you are wanting to apply for a role, I think one of the biggest challenges is, and also for businesses as well, is yes, the business wants to be able to absolutely get the right candidate and the person to work with that organisation. It sounds a bit strange. Even for specific roles, there is a really high bar on this is the qualification that you absolutely need, these are the skills that you absolutely need. And actually, a lot of organisations are losing incredible people because they've got transferable skills. And it's actually sharing that within, even from an Indeed or recruitment job description, is making sure that you have this is the exemplar, fantastic, that's your gold star, but what are those transferable skills or experience that you can go, oh, actually, this group of people or this previous type of role would fit in really well within HR, for example. So, a school teacher, wow, oh my goodness, the skills, the people management, the support that person has to be able to give within a classroom, the other teachers, the headmaster, the stakeholder management, all of that above. They might not use the same language, but goodness me, they are absolutely the same skills to be able to look at HR management roles, CBD, HR training, and so much more. So when you're ensuring that you have an accessible and an inclusive recruitment process, it's understanding that if you want the right person, you have to think a little bit differently to extend that out to, again, different roles, different transferable skills, different experiences.
Well, I last worked in a hearing environment. That was in 1988, and that interview was really difficult. There was no interpreter there at that time. At that time, there weren't many interpreters around. It was mostly social workers, and social workers didn't act like interpreters. They could kind of take over from the deaf person. Then in 1995, there were plenty of jobs for deaf people coming around in the council. They gave job opportunities, teaching sign language, deaf awareness training, that kind of thing. And, deaf people like jobs like that now. Most hearing working environments are still not up to date on deaf issues. In a lot of such environments, there's barriers, and there's no deaf awareness.
When I'm looking for a job, I think the first thing I always look for is to see if they have an anti-racism policy or if they explicitly say that they practice an inclusive workforce or ethos. So that's really important to me. Looking for words like diversity and encouraging diversity obviously is always very appealing as well. So I look for the signs that organisation is looking to hire diversity, basically.
What other information do you look for to work out if you will be supported?
So the kind of information I would look for is whether they are a deaf-friendly organisation, if they're deaf-aware. Certainly English would be the first barrier that I would hit. So I would look at the website and I would see particularly if they had a British Sign Language video on the website, maybe a few of them. And that would help a lot. I would be more confident that I didn't have to read all the information, that I could access it through BSL.
As well as looking for sort of wording in adverts and things, I will then go onto the website and I will look for those policies. I'll also look at their social media to see if they're practicing what they preach, so how are they actively being inclusive. I'll have a look to see if they provide training for staff, particularly anti-racism training or inclusivity training, and particularly for the leadership teams. I'll also look to see who that company works with, who are their customer base, or who do they serve, and how do they interact with those people, because I think a lot of the time this is about people communicating with people.
I'm a gay man. I've been involved with Pride for some time, and when I see a Pride flag in an organisation's window, or their website, or their recruitment on Indeed, whatever they want to be able to share it on. Even Google has LGBTQ plus friendly on map icons, which is fantastic, so you can add those on. Genuinely, there is a sense of warmth, understanding, thinking about other people, caring. And that makes a real difference for actually people that aren't just LGBTQ plus, but understand the challenges of others.
We are very protective of our young people going into volunteer roles, and we hope that we identify any gaps in their knowledge or their training needs before we present them with one of our young people. That's really important for us to protect them. That's what I look for, is making sure they're using the right language, making sure that they're not overcompensating for his learning disability, because it's very, very easy to baby some of our young people, and that's not what they want. They want to be seen as young adults who are doing a good job.
And it's accepting somebody for who they are, who they come across as. For example, my daughter's got blue hair and she will always carry her George pig with her, but that's her makeup. That doesn't make it wrong, it doesn't make it right, it makes it her, and it's just about her being accepted for who she is.
Are there any places you would recommend to advertise?
There are actually websites that are specific to appeal to ethnically diverse people. So there's BME jobs, ethnic jobs, and several others. So you can just kind of Google it, and that's a great way to make sure that you're directly advertising to the ethnically diverse cohort. I use LinkedIn personally because you can really check out a company and see who their staff are. I'll always look to see how diverse their staff already are and if they have people in positions of decision making, so that I can see that they're already established in that ethos or in that culture. I would recommend LinkedIn and those specific websites to advertise on.
When looking at recruiting and supporting other people, it's really difficult to get the right people. So people might actually already be in jobs. People might not necessarily be looking for jobs. So yes, you can go through the I'd call ordinary processes, and the processes that we're all used to, so not necessarily highlighting particular ones, but let's go with Indeed and going through recruitment agencies. Sounds great, might work. Do you get the right people? Do you get a lot of churn? You need to go out to different communities, and actually going out for the right reasons, creating the culture around your organisation, actively understanding lived experience of other people so you're able to create diversity of thought. So go out to communities, go out to events, come to Pride, come to other festivals and celebrate your organisation with people that might not know they could be interested in coming and working with you.
If I were looking for a new job, I'd look on the internet or the job centre, but that's very difficult to access. In my time, 40 years ago, you could walk into the job centre and see a list of jobs up on a board, but you can't do that these days. There are people who work in the job centre with no deaf awareness whatsoever, so if I were to apply for a job, they'd say, oh no, you can't do that, you're deaf. That's a really negative attitude, and it puts deaf people off. So mostly I would look on websites for jobs.
We advertise we don't take on very often, but when we do have a position, particularly at the moment we're looking for volunteers to be committee members and trustees, we generally advertise within our own community to start with, because we know those people, we know that they have lived experience. But if we have to go outside of that, our own communities, we'd come to Disability Cornwall, particularly around the recruitment of PAs, because we know that you've already done the hard work sifting out the people that wouldn't necessarily fit with us or our children and young people.
Yeah, I totally agree.
This video was produced by Discover Voices, part of Disability Cornwall and Isles of Scilly. To check out all of our content, simply search Discover Voices on YouTube.